All anime and manga is censored in Japan by head of Visa. Okay, here we go.
Head of Visa Japan proudly admits to bullying retailers into censorship, all in the name of brand protection. The man that said this looks like this, and first
He
impression...
bald as fuck, man. Like, you know, some people are bald. This dude is really bald. Wow.
He looks like a stereotypical supervillain from a comic book. Like, if someone told me this was Lex Luthor, I would believe it. I straight up would, because it's like he has the whole drip going on. He has the bald, hairstyle going on. He has that
I feel like anytime that a bald person disagrees with you, everybody has a conversation about which bad guy he is. Which bald bad guy is it? Is that Dark Souls 2 music? Yeah, it is. This is the Majula music.
Smile going on. This man straight up, if you were to tell me this was Lex Luthor, I would believe you, because he does straight up look like Lex Luthor. It's just like, it's so crazy how cartoonishly evil some people can be, and that's basically what we have going on here. So let's get into the main subject at hand, aka this individual right here, basically saying he is bullying retailers into censorship in the name of brand protection. Now,
brand protection is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard in my life. Nobody gives a fuck. And this is what these companies do. They basically, they operate as cartels as if they're trying to protect their brand. Protect it from what?
This comment here actually is from this post here on Twitter. I became aware of this a few hours ago, and eventually, through digging and stuff, I found the Reddit post where this spawned from, and eventually the link to the actual, article here discussing the interview and everything about that.
And
this is basically what this guy, the head of Visa Japan, had to say. So, Kidney explained that while Visa strives to facilitate legal and legitimate purchases whenever possible, there are instances where the company must restrict usage to protect the brand. Now, before I even get into the main meat here, protect the brand, it's like, facilitate legal and legitimate purchases whenever possible. You're saying that there is illegitimate purchases sometimes?
Well, yeah, of course.
Anyways, let's get into the main thing. So basically, restrict usage to protect the brand. What does this mean? Well, this is more or less...
This is what companies use as an excuse to effectively strong-arm other people into censoring themselves. Is that companies inside of an industry all try to, quote, protect their brand in the exact same way, which is, in my opinion, basically antitrust violation. And it's blackmail in order to make companies behave in a way that they want. That's what they do.
Speak with saying, we don't want content that could ruin our image. We don't want content that could potentially get people not to use our said service. I'm thinking to myself, like, I think anyone has a debit or credit card are not looking at their companies of Visa and MasterCard and be like, these companies are scumbags because they're allowing me to use my money to buy what I want to buy legally.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone is getting upset with Visa or MasterCard. In fact, censoring and stopping me from being able to use my own money is actually what would cause me not to like your company.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
gives
It's
your
annoying.
Brand a bad
100%. He's
so
right.
So what's fully happening here for those that are not actually aware? So basically, Visa and MasterCard and a bunch of other credit card companies have been on a crusade as of late for the last few years in Japan, basically slowly...
No, this has been a big problem everywhere in the world. And the problem is that a lot of these big, payment processing companies function as a government, and they decide and they remove service, and they won't process payments from certain places for arbitrary reasons. And so what they do is they basically force other companies to behave in ways that they want them to do. They're gatekeepers. Yeah, exactly, right? In my opinion, I think this should be illegal. Primarily for the reason that it's happening collectively. But why? I don't understand. Because they don't want to. It doesn't matter why. It's totally irrelevant. It should be? Well, it is illegal, I think. I think that if this went to court, you'd probably be able to find through discovery. You'd probably be able to find tons of evidence of them colluding to do this themselves and talking amongst each other, doing this themselves.
squeezing
I don't think
the
it's like
life out
it's
of
not like a
certain
random,
sites where they can no longer
oh
sell
wow, why
products
did this
or
happen?
operate as a site
I think it happened for a
because
reason.
Visa and MasterCard have basically closed shop
Yeah,
on
censorship.
those sites.
It is.
Now, effectively, what this means is that there is a lot of stuff like Melon Books is a recent site I
Yeah.
covered that houses a lot of different manga and houses merchandise. It also houses 18 plus content as well.
Isn't this similar to what the advertisers did to Elon with Twitter? It is exactly the same thing. And I also want to keep in mind that when Elon leveraged the lawsuit against the advertisers, and he put a lawsuit against there's a advertising, I think it was what was it called? NAFTA. It wasn't NAFTA or something like this, right? GARM, or GARN, I think. It was like Advertisers Alliance or something like that. The moment that lawsuit happened, they got rid of it. Because they know what they're doing is illegal. It's just they haven't been regulated in a way that matters. And also, the big reason why this is a problem, and this is the reason why everybody should care about this, is because these companies have no allegiance or obligation to any country. All they care about is making money. And if they can make money in a way that's detrimental to the citizens of any country, they will do it. So when you have companies that are behaving as censors and using that power to censor critical thought and censor communication in a country that has voting, you're effectively having a unelected, unaccountable entity that is completely affecting public discourse. It's very dangerous to have this happen. It's not good. Yeah, exactly. And especially when it's happening unilaterally with all of the companies that are operating in the same way inside of an industry. So they can effectively freeze people out of spaces that don't go inside of their confines. Self-regulation. Yeah, exactly. That's good. No? No, with credit cards being bad. Yeah, credit cards are bad, but this is something different.
Thing is, it's completely all legal, sanctioned under Japan, everything like that. It is completely fine to use and buy in Japan on these sites and stuff. And the thing is that Visa and MasterCard, kind of backed out of those sites because they were saying, if you do not censor your content, if you don't do certain things that we want you to do, then we are going to remove ourselves from your site, and you're not going to be able to make any money. Effectively, like literally this post says, bullying retailers into censorship. Because it's
the governments there need to hold these companies accountable, in my opinion. Because if you're a company and you want to operate inside of a country, and you are effectively using your brand as a tool, if you think that companies following our laws in our country is somehow damaging to your brand, then get the fuck out of the country. Because if you think it's that bad, just leave, go somewhere else. And I feel like they're letting these companies completely bully them around. Government lets it happen. They
Japan,
do.
The big go-to credit card companies and debit card companies in Japan is MasterCard and Visa. Crazy, but that is the main usage of non-cash currency in Japan. And so because of that, most Japanese people, not just, let's say, people around the world, most Japanese people will instantly be locked out from even being able to buy goods from these sites because of Visa and MasterCard backing out, effectively strangling these sites and allowing them to not make any money anymore. And so the only options they have is either close their doors, donations, or they bow down to Visa and be like, yes, we will do as you say, Master. We will do exactly what you say, and we promise we will never do anything that upsets your company and all that. We will make sure we keep squeaky clean and censor ourselves. That is basically their option.
And you can see how this is extremely dangerous when it's applied to political topics. I think that it's pretty easy to get a lot of people spamming W for censoring weird lolly stuff. Yeah, for sure. But when we're talking about censoring political topics and censoring certain ideas, which is also what these companies do as well, that's whenever it gets really, really dangerous.
And this has been a constant
It's been applied to political topics? It has.
That has happened continuously for the last few years. In fact, this article does cover quite a few sites that were shut down or forced to censor in their own way. Melon Books, Manga Library Z, Dimpasoft, and Tirana, I can't pronounce that one. DL Site, Fonza, Fantia, Nico Nico. You get the point. There is a lot of sites in Japan that are huge in Japan that are just straight up being strangled by these credit card, debit card companies. And so the fact that we have the actual head of Visa Japan going full-blown mask-off moment and just straight up saying, yeah, they better bow down to protect our brand image. I'm just like...
Exactly. Like, and this is the reason why this is happening is because the government allows it to happen. In my opinion, I don't think that you should be able to systematically just decide to deny service to places because of your own arbitrary rules if those places are not breaking the law. Like, your brand image doesn't give you the right to censor an entire culture. And if you think that it does, then get the fuck out of the culture. That's what my viewpoint is. So, like, if you really think that Japan is this bad, then stop doing business there. The government probably puts up with it, including guns and weed. Yeah. They said it's Visa Japan, though, so wouldn't it be based on Japanese law? Well, I don't know. I have no idea. Can't the Japanese government stop this? Yeah, they can. Don't they have a right to choose their customers, though? In a certain way, yes, but whenever they're doing it in a systematic way that disenfranchises people based off of their own internal criteria, that is just totally arbitrary, then it becomes problematic because it gives them a way of having unilateral control that's bad for everybody. Basically, my viewpoint is that anytime that a company exists in a way that's detrimental to a population, that it should not exist in that way. Because the companies and corporations should exist to serve the population, and if it actually like is a detriment, then it shouldn't exist. Because again, keep in mind, the reason why Visa and MasterCard exist is because the government lets them exist. Do you want to know why Visa and MasterCard don't have all these, they don't have their buildings in like random places in Africa? Because if they did, people would go to the building and kill everybody in the building and steal everything. That's what would happen. So places that don't have laws, the reasons why these people are able to exist is because we have laws protecting them. And because of that, I think that they need to be accountable to the people that create those laws. That's it.
Dude.
Africa has laws? It does in some places, not others. Yeah, I mean, it's really bad over there in some places. It is. Like, that's why they have warlords and shit. Yeah, it's really bad. Let's be real.
Dude. Holy crap. Like, they know they have so much power that there's not much that could potentially stop them. At least maybe in Japan. I don't know. Because there's been even big creators that have called this out and how worrying it is. Like Yoko Taro, a.k.a. the creator.
Of Nier Automata.
The creator of Nier. 2B, 9S, big man in the industry, okay? Famous dev, okay, in Japan. He even spoke out about this recently, how dangerous this situation is going and how it is going to strangle the freedom of expression and writing and speech and all that in Japan.
He's completely
right. This
right.
is a worrying thing. So the fact that they're just straight up admitting it is some insane stuff, especially when you go on, when they went on record about 5 months ago saying that no, they're not censoring things, they're not doing anything to these sites, it's some middleman doing this. Now it's very clear that that was a load of bullshit. It's very obvious at this point. One of the big things that does need to be talked about here is that what could be theoretically done. Well, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to assume that some of the things they've been doing definitely break some laws, maybe antitrust laws, maybe some form of laws in Japan.
100%. I don't know about like in Japan. I have no idea. But I know in the US, I guarantee you that if you did Discovery and you saw all of the people that are working in these companies, I bet they're going to the same parties. They're having conversations with each other. And you could very easily find more than enough evidence to conclude that they are colluding. Absolutely. 100% that's what's happening.
They're definitely doing some form of crooked stuff. Let's just be blunt here. They are being very anti-consumer, and they are strangleholding the market to where if you don't follow what they want, you're not going to be able to make any money. You're not going to be able to operate even in Japan. And so this is a very worrying thing, because a lot of people like to say they'll just do piracy. That's not the point here. This is the very source in Japan being strangleholded. This isn't a Western thing. This isn't something that's happening like in Europe or America.
It does happen in Europe and America. It just doesn't happen as much. And I think also the problem is that a lot of people don't have a big understanding of like how cartels and antitrust matters. And because they don't understand why this is a big deal, and also it's something that affects, like, for example, when like Facebook bans people and then the public gets mad about it, it's easy to understand that because it's something that you experience as an individual. But this problem is harder for people to understand and relate to because it's a problem between two businesses. And usually a lot of the big consumer problems are problems that happen between the business and the consumer. So that's why this is actually a huge issue, but a lot of people don't have the same degree of like severity attaching to it.
This is straight up happening in Japan, and this is obviously companies that are outside of Japan strangleholding the market. And I think one of the big things that this is doing as well, it has some relation to a story I covered recently about a week and a half ago with the whole Sony debacle, with Sony potentially buying, Kadokawa. And I found out in that video, and I even talked about it, that apparently Japan passed some laws to where companies outside of Japan can now buy up some other companies. In this case, it's very clear that whatever laws are being passed in Japan is allowing these companies outside of Japan to slowly put their tendrils and everything and take control and force Japan to do certain things that they normally wouldn't do. That's clearly what's going on here. So something's got to be done. Obviously, I'm not completely aware of every law within Japan because I don't live there, but this is very worrying when you see stuff like this. I think that this is obviously very anti-consumer, and credit card, debit card companies have no business stopping someone from using their own money, because let's just be blunt
they don't
here.
have any business trying to exercise their own pseudo laws. This is the problem. It's that these are companies that are trying to become a government, where they're acting unilaterally against things that are legal in order to create their own laws and force people to behave the way that they want. That's why it's bad.
When you get a card, debit, credit card, okay? Let's be honest here. If you've used one, you don't care about the brand image on there, okay? You're like, you're a vessel for me to deliver my money to what I want to buy.
It's not a real problem
on these sites. That's it.
He's blackmailing them?
You should have no other role. The brand image, that's absolute bullshit. For such a essential product, for something that is so essential to daily life, that just like, the fact that they can straight up censor like this and force these restrictions is astronomically insane. I cannot believe that this is being allowed to happen in Japan.
It happens in the US too.
Tell me that apparently there's some form of investigation in these card companies and stuff recently. I don't know if that's true or not. That's through word of mouth, so I'm not going to say like that's 100% accurate. That's just what I've been told. And if that's indeed the case, I'm glad there's an investigation. Now, this investigation, I think, is happening in America, so I don't think that this might have an effect maybe in Japan, but I still, these
I think that the whole problem with, like, Elon Musk and, like, a lot of the social media censorship did shine kind of a light on the issue that these companies have with, like, all behaving together as I said before, like a quasi-pseudo-government. I think that now, like, the population kind of understands it. Like, the population understands it like 5 times better now than they did 5 years ago. But it takes a long time for people to understand it. Seems that standard trajectory with most large-scale global companies. Yeah, exactly. Isn't this a monopoly on credit cards and debit cards as well? It effectively is, yes. Well, it's not a monopoly because there are multiple companies, but the companies all behave like a monopoly because they all do the same thing.
Card companies need to be reeled in. There's definitely some corruption going on here, and this man is definitely in the heart of all of it. I mean, this dude, holy crap, Lex Luthor looking man.
I mean, he's just one person, right?
I wanted to talk about this because obviously this is a follow-up / update to the ongoing controversy and issues within Japan with the whole
I hate to
censorship.
say this. I fucking hate to say this, but this is a reason why crypto is popular. This is a function. This is like one of the things that like people like about crypto is the fact that like crypto kind of like undoes this, because people can buy and sell from anything to anyone with no restrictions.
This is wild stuff. Like I cannot believe the mask off nature of this head of Visa Japan to actually do something like this.
Yep.
But I'll leave it at that. I wanted to talk about this. Thank you so much for watching. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.
I very much appreciate him making this video because I wish more people talked about this. I don't think it's a super popular topic, and I think it's because, like, again, the topic is kind of hard to relate to and understand, but it's actually one of the biggest issues that we're running into now. What if these credit card companies determine that certain kind of purchases, such as sports betting, for example, have a higher percentage of customers who don't repay their credit bills? I think that at a certain point, it depends on what happens, right? I think that if you are operating inside of a company and you are trying to create your own rules of why you think that it's okay for you not to provide like service to people, even though they're not breaking any laws, and then everybody else in your industry is doing the same thing, I think that's a huge issue. We should have a bit more research and understand the difference in a payment processor, a bank, and a lender. Well, I think in general, like, it's not really that relevant. That's the bank's issue. Yeah, exactly. This is about payment, though, not granting credit. Yeah, it's about being able to do payments. Yeah, exactly. There's the video right there. Talking about the problem in the middle is like 5 bannable topics, kind of hard to discuss. You can't talk about the problem. Oh, I don't know. Let's see. They have to follow local government law at the end of the day? No? No, yeah, they do. And I think that the problem is not that they're not following the law. It's that they're creating their own laws on top of that instead. So, yeah, I think it's a huge, huge problem. Said 4 times he's not an expert. Well, either way, like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Thank you. I feel it's important about topics, don't about every law. I feel like people need to become more aware of it. No, I agree. Yeah, he's in chat. Chibi Reviews is in chat. Yeah, thanks for the video. This is very, very good video. I totally fucking agree with everything you're saying. I wish more people understood what these problems were, because I think it's going to keep getting worse, too. It's not a huge problem, bro. Let's not overreact. It could be a huge problem, but it's meaningless at the moment. So I think it is. Yeah, so I do think it's a huge problem. And the reason why I think it's a huge problem is because companies did it with Twitter. And fundamentally, the reason why Twitter had the problems that it did when Elon Musk bought it is because the companies didn't like what Elon Musk was allowing people to post on the website. And so what the companies were effectively doing is they were curating and creating a government censorship control by effectively demonetizing anything that goes outside of their window of what's acceptable. If you can't see how dangerous that is, I don't know what to tell you. That's extremely fucking dangerous. It's a censorship issue at its core. Yeah, it is. Next up, you can't spend money on a company item controlled by a competitor to our allies. Maybe, right? Is there any actual evidence of that? Well, I mean, there's just the visual evidence of watching it happen. I mean, I feel like there's definitely that. And then, I mean, filed a lawsuit on it, and then why do you think they disbanded their alliance of advertisers after the lawsuit? I bet it's probably because there was evidence of it. I bet that was the reason why. I think that was definitely the reason why. Some people put way too much faith in corporations and government. Well, you don't need to have faith in either one of them. What you need to have faith in is the systems that hold them accountable. And that's what really matters.